Congressman Chip Roy. How are you doing, Congressman?
Good morning, Kurt. Happy Kwanzaa to you, my friend.
Yeah, well, I love to share communist values at the during this special time. You know, there's nothing we need more than Jesus-free paganism. Oh, wait. Yes, we need everything more, literally everything.
Nothing is more woke 2020 than a made-up crazy communist holiday people run around celebrating.
By a guy convicted of sexual assault, so that makes it even invented by that guy. It makes it even better. But let's get right into it. You are one of our congressional fighters over COVID insanity. I saw on your Twitter feed, which I think everybody should follow. You are at, hold on, I'm going to get this thing, Chip Roy TX. You quoted my pal, Chef Andrew Gruel from here in Orange County, California. And he pointed out something that was very important, that transmission is very, very low at small businesses like restaurants, yet that's where the entire burden is being placed. Why do they want to destroy small business?
I think this is one of the important questions, Kurt. Seriously. I mean, I've been tracking this very early. When this started breaking out last March, one of the first things that I asked for is for people to focus on the elderly, the vulnerable, protect their nursing homes, the opposite, by the way, of what Cuomo did in New York, for example. But what the left has done is going around trying to do lockdown, shut everybody down. And that's all about control. It's all about destroying the backbone of America, the small businesses, which represent the entrepreneurial spirit, the least government place in the world, which is the entrepreneurial small business in America. And I think it's purposeful. And we're seeing the destruction of the creativity and the ability for people to go out and make their own living rather than having to rely on government. That's purposeful by Democrats. And they're using the virus as an excuse to do it. And if you look at the data, and you've looked at it, I've looked at it, and I follow some great accounts on Twitter. El Gato Malo is a great one, the Ethical Skeptic, Phil Kerpen, Alex Berenson, the chef you just pointed out has been out there talking about it. These restaurants that are shutting down, there's very little evidence of any transmission there. And there was a great study that came out of Spain where they've been doing a bunch of contact tracing. People who get out and about are less likely to get the virus. People who wear masks, it's either the same or maybe even more likely to get the virus, at least according to this one study. So we're getting a lot of crap thrown at us, and we ought to just be doing the one thing Americans are supposed to be good at, which is live free. And we need to push back.
Exactly, Congressman Chip Roy. Look, we are not virus deniers. I mean, the liberals are science deniers because they don't look at those statistics and they don't act on them. But we are not virus deniers. You are a cancer survivor.
Yep.
And I had COVID. I caught it defending the president's in Nevada following that horrible, disastrous election. But it's very clear that we need to approach this in a different way. We've been doing the same thing for 11 months, and it's failed, and their answer seems to be, let's do more of it. And even with the vaccine, as you tweeted out, there's some scientist out there who's like, well, even after you get the vaccine and you're immune, and I'm immune. I mean, I'm actually giving antibodies on Monday. But he's like, well, we still need to wear masks. What? That's just crazy.
Well, and this is the problem, right, is there's no logic or reason in this in terms of figuring out how we're going to go out and continue to produce the biggest economy in the world. I was amused when you see these folks go, well, New Zealand and these other countries, they've got their lockdowns. Guys, the entire world depends on the United States of America functioning, right? Studies that show that like 150 million people are going to go hungry around the world because our economy isn't cranking out at the same level it normally cranks. And then we're seeing what's happening in our own country in the decimating small businesses. Now we're debating in Congress. We're not debating crap in Congress. We never debate. But a handful of oligarchs, Nancy Pelosi and a few others, are running around and they're going to drop a $2.4 trillion bill on the floor of the House of Representatives today that I haven't seen. Literally, I've not seen it.
I don't think it's too much to ask Representative Chip Roy for our representatives to actually read the things they're voting on. Now, call me crazy, and people do, but how did we get into a place where we're passing giant bills without even reading them?
Well, we get that place is called Congress,
and
the problem is when everybody goes, well, what's wrong there? What's wrong in that town? That's precisely what's wrong. And by the way, let me just go ahead and point the guns at both Democrats and Republicans. I mean, I'm obviously a proud Republican, but Republicans have been doing this too. We haven't had, believe this or not, to your listeners out there, we haven't had a vote on the floor of the House of Representatives on an amendment in open debate. That is, that a congressman, one of the 435, your congressman, ladies and gentlemen, whoever it is, goes to the floor and offers an amendment. We haven't done that since May of 2016. The place is fundamentally broken. It is run by Nancy Pelosi and a handful of people in a back room in a committee who put together a big bill, and they bring it down to the floor, and they say, take it or leave it. And that's what we're going to get today, ladies and gentlemen. $2.4 trillion dropped on the floor of the House. So I sent a letter yesterday, along with, I think, maybe 12 to 15 of my colleagues, telling the president, man, look, you should veto these spending bills. Don't think twice about it. I know he's going to veto the NDAA bill, the defense bill, and I know you're a veteran and you understand why I don't want to vote against a defense authorization bill, but we had to because it was chock full of a chief diversity officer, all sorts of restrictions.
Well, that'll help. That'll help defeat the Chinese.
Exactly.
The essential unseriousness of America's military is a crisis right now. But let me ask you, Representative Chip Roy. I'm a small business owner too. The PPP has been a huge benefit to us, and I don't think it's I'm a hardcore conservative. I don't think it's unreasonable when they say you've got to shut down. Fine. Right. You've got to help me bear the cost, and we need to spread around. If you're asking me to spread, to bear the whole cost, that's unfair. Yep. There's a lot of talk out there among small business people about PPP taxability. What is the status of the move to make that money non-taxable so you don't get a big chunk of money that you spent keeping your people employed? I kept every one of my folks employed, even when they didn't have enough work to do. What is there any talk or discussion of that?
Well, I'm glad you asked. This is something that's near and dear to my heart. I represent a bunch of restaurants and a bunch of small businesses in Texas 21. And so in the summer, I worked actually across the aisle of all things. We passed the PPP Flexibility Act, which extended it and gave more flexibility for all you small business owners to be able to take advantage of it and stay alive. And by the way, for conservatives out there, look, I don't like big spending bills, but as you said, governments are shutting down businesses. This is like a taking, right?
Yes.
This is borderline regulatory taking.
Yes,
You've
exactly.
got government acting, taking away your livelihood. So, of course, government has to make you whole. So I've been fighting like hell for that. Now, this is one where I depart a little bit from the administration. Treasury Secretary Mnuchin has been the lead advocate against allowing you all to deduct the expenses you normally deduct when it's being deducted against the PPP flexible, forgiven loans. And I disagree with that wholeheartedly. It's like the whole point of the forgiveness and the PPP was you guys were getting screwed by government.
Yes.
And we got to maintain and allow the deductibility. So I've written a letter to Mnuchin. I've called Mnuchin. I've called the White House. And Mnuchin has actually been threatening that they might even veto whatever bill, even though the bill's going to be a disaster, at least have some pieces of the PPP in there, including deductibility. And they're pushing back on it. So the negotiation right now, I'm advocating hard. Get that tax provision in there. We need an extension of the PPP of funds to be available. We need to clear off the decks of the loans and make sure they're already forgiven and make sure that there's another round to help these businesses stay afloat. It's the one single thing we ought to be able to do. And by the way, remember, Nancy Pelosi's been blocking anything we try to do on small businesses since August. She's done so for crass political purposes. She admitted it, acknowledged it. So she's the obstacle to small businesses. But Steve Mnuchin needs to get out of the way of this tax issue. I think he's nerding out on GAAP accounting, and this isn't GAAP accounting. This is a taking.
Somebody needs to grab him by, his tailored collar and say, look, you little weasel. You are shafting the heart and soul of the Republican Party, the heart and soul of America. You have asked us not to do business, not to be able to feed our families, yet to continue to support your employees. We did that. Now it's your turn. But let me turn to a subject that might be a little more fun. How well do you think Republicans are going to do in 2022?
Well, look, I think Republicans will do great in 22 if we get out and lead and we go out and give the American people a reason to get behind Republicans. And I think the reason and the way we got to do that is stop doing the bull crap in Washington, D.C., right? Go straight to the people and go to about what we want to see. We're tired of having a government. Just yesterday in that letter that we sent to the president saying veto these bills, why would any Republican any Republican vote for one of these spending bills that funds education to teach our children to hate America, that funds a border that's completely insecure and empowers cartels to move people across our border and move narcotics across our border. Why would we fund a government that is going to continue to take away our ability to go to the doctor of our choice and empower insurance bureaucrats?
Exactly. Why would we do any of that? That's Congressman Chip Roy. This is the Hugh Hewitt Radio Program. I'm guest host Kurt Schlichter. Stick around for Dr. Michael Warren.
Thank you, Kurt. Got to do a couple of bits of business. Let me remind everyone, if they're buying gold for Christmas,